Jeff, always good to see you. I know today we want to talk a little about when to walk away from a sales deal. It always reminds me of the song by Kenny Rogers, The Gambler: know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. And I know you've got some thoughts and some experiences on this. And I think any seller, faces that tough question. There's the inclination to stay in it no matter what, to try to squeak out whatever opportunity may exist in some of these relationships. But sometimes it's just not worth it. It's not worth the investment of time or resources or angst that's going to come out of the deal. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, everyone's instinct is, as a seller, obviously you want to sell as much as you can to as many people as you can, but at the same time, in the interest of your reputation and your industry and also for your own mental health, because having unhappy customers is not a good thing. It's best to make sure that you're getting into a relationship that's going to be productive for both sides. And you never really, good salespeople don't want to sell things to people who don't need what they're selling, right? And I think the more experience you get, the more confidence you have that you can walk away from things. I think there's two moments or inflection points where you might walk away from a potential deal. One of them is pretty obvious, and the other is probably less obvious. I think the more obvious time is in discovery. So you're sitting down with the customer for the first time, trying to understand what is their pain, what are they focused on, and you can usually tell if you ask the right questions right away. If you might not know that it's a fit, but you should be able to tell if it's not a fit, right? If it's not a fit, you'll know that, and if you're a good salesperson, you'll let you'll let the customer know that, hey, you know what, based on what you're telling me here, there's probably not an opportunity for X, Y, and Z reason. It's good to give the reasons because things can always change, right? Say, hey, if these things change, like, let's be in touch and explain the logic. That's a good time to do it. As you get further down the road, though, there's a lot of complexity, and a lot of times salespeople don't know when to walk away from something. They might be getting ghosted for a little bit of time. At what point do you pull the plug? It might be that you're setting certain expectations and the customer's moving the goalposts on you a little bit. That can be a time to walk away because, if you're in the sales process and you're constantly having the goalposts moved on you in terms of expectations and deliverables, imagine how much worse it's going to be when they're paying you and they're expecting you to do everything that they ask for, right? And if they're moving the goalposts on you, that's not good. I'll give one example. I won't name, names or talk about which company this was that I worked at, but, in the not too distant past, I walked away from a deal. We were in talks with a potential customer. They were looking at a competitor. I got the vibe that they were kind of just playing us off one another. We did everything that the person asked for, and then they wanted us to do more. And so, the shifting of expectations, when we were already really extending ourselves, we had demonstrated that I think even the customer admitted that we were the best solution. We got to the price point that they needed, but they were still pushing us for more. It indicated to me that they were not being as transparent about their process as they needed to be. And if there's not a level of transparency and honesty, it's just not going to be a good relationship. We had pulled a lot of punches to try to make things work for this customer. And so at a certain point, you need to have some self-respect and say, look, I did everything I can. If you're not going to move on this, we're going to have to just go in different directions, So those are my thoughts. You and I had a good dialogue before this. I know that you and I share some of the same thoughts here, but also I think you had some of your own ideas. So would love to hear your thoughts on this, Carson.
I love your thoughts on that, Jeff. I mean, you've pointed out some of the obvious red flags, but sometimes they're not so obvious. And the reason why is because it's easy for us as sellers, because we're passionate about what we do, to get really close to it. And I would even encourage you sometimes, if you're banging your head up against the wall in one of these deals, take a step back. Try to look at some of the foundational, pieces that you're going to need to get a meaningful deal done. Talk with a sales coach, talk with a friend, talk with a mentor, somebody you trust in sales, to look at these parameters together. Are you working with the power? And are you at a level in that organization where you're talking with the influencers and their influencers? Because if you're not at the level of power, talking with the person that's got the juice to get the deal done, it's a big red flag. Same thing too, is their budget allotted for this deal? making sure that you're getting answers to the questions that you need answers to. Because remember, you're going to have to evangelize this deal back at the ranch. You're going to have to take this deal back, have it ratified, have it blessed. Are there discounts? Are there other resources that you're going to be bringing to bear? So you've got to really know this thing inside and out. And I think that puts you in a unique position as a seller to go to the customer and to let them know, hey, I'm going to go back and I'm going to fight hard for this, but I need you to arm me with what I need. It goes back to what you were just talking about as far as that trust and transparency element. The last element too, you brought this up as well, is the timeline. Are there tangible timelines that are out there that align to their goals? Have they stated that this is a goal? A lot of customers, they may have a competing solution to what you're proposing. So do they see any need to make a change? You've got to look for, is this fertile ground to make a change? And, I think a lot of times sellers hang in there out of the hopes that something is going to happen, for the very same reason that sometimes we stay in bad relationships or friendships or anything else, because we hope that it's going to pan out. But the reality is, how much more time and effort could you invest elsewhere in a situation that's more fertile to turn into a win? Deals come out of relationships. So if you don't have a relationship, or you feel like you have that trusting and transparent relationship, the viability of it turning into a meaningful deal lessens. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it definitely lessens. And you want to make sure you're gravitating toward where there's highest propensity. And what you ultimately want, I've got this thing that I call the holy sales trinity. It's the customer, your company, your brand, your logo, and you. And all three of those entities have to win. I always proactively go out looking for wins for my customers. How can I truly deliver a meaningful win? And I'll tell that executive, like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm propping you up as the champion in this deal. What is going to help you sell this or be the hero in all of this within your organization? Am I propping you up as an innovator? Are we, what's the story that we're trying to tell within your organization? If you look for the win for others, the likelihood that you win goes up, because if everybody else around you win in the situation that you're trying to create, you win too. The other element too, like you said, we're looking for these red flags. There's a lot of times too where we may be being boxed into a situation where they're just trying to shop us with a competitor. If you're being thrown a lot of, hey, I've seen this competitive bid or whatever it is, they're trying to get you to drop your price or just offer additional things so that they can squeeze more out of a competitor. That doesn't feel like a loving, trusting relationship either. So we've all been there. We've all been ghosted. And personally, I would rather have a yes or a no, something tangible that I can move forward to. Is this a priority? Do these timelines align? Is this something that we want to embark on together? Then a maybe so. I'd rather have that than be out there twisting in the wind and not have a finite answer. So think about, we don't make these decisions sometimes or kind of push the envelope because we don't want to upset the apple cart. But the thing of the matter is, what are we gambling? If we don't have a relationship that's going to move forward in a meaningful way with two parties that want to do something together, to collaborate, to partner, and to, change the game, change the industry, or even just do something meaningful together, then the viability of this going forward meaningfully diminishes. So what are we really truly gambling when we walk away? Very little, especially when we can invest elsewhere. So great dialogue. I think this is always top of mind for sellers because, when we're in Q4 right now too. I'm sure a lot of people have spent a lot of the year, trying to nurture deals that they hope are going to close. So be very mindful of the progress or lack thereof as you're eyeing deals to close now and into the future.
Awesome. Great insights. Thanks, Carson.
Always, Jeff. Appreciate you as well. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome.